Hello and welcome back to my humble show. So, it actually happened. Former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted. What do you think? Are you excited? I'm not so sure he is, but will he get 5 years or maybe just 5 tears and a nothing burger? We shall see what the end result will be. Innocent until proven guilty, right? Feel free to disagree with me on anything. Let me know in the comments below what you think, what you know. I got some things to go through. But let me give you my intro one more time. Hello and welcome back to my humble show. I'm your host for today and every other day, the Articulate Thinker, hopefully. Here to bring you art articles and articulation straight from Articulation Station, where I'll be assessing this particular situation. So be sure to like, subscribe, and enjoy the ride. Don't forget to turn on those bell notifications while you're at it. I have made a couple of changes to my set here. Podcast and pods. Not sure which one this will be. It depends on how long I'm recording for. Yeah. If I run over 10 minutes, I usually call it a podcast. If not, then it's a pod. I don't intend to spend as long on this topic as I spent on my last couple of shows. I believe both of those ran over 45 minutes or so. Yeah, I don't want to waste too much of your time or mine for that matter. But let's talk about James Comey and the aforementioned indictment against him, courtesy of the DOJ, or shall I say, a grand jury. First, a statement from Kash Patel, who has been making many statements as of late, whether you love him or hate him. This just yesterday. Career FBI agents, intel analysts, and staff led the investigation into Comey and others. Let me enlarge the text a bit for you. There you go. They called the balls and strikes and will continue to do so. The wildly false accusations against this FBI for the politicization of law enforcement comes from the same bankrupt media that sold the world on Russiagate. It's hypocrisy on steroids. Their baseless objections tell us now, more than ever, that we are precisely over the target and will remain on mission until completion. Thank you to this brave FBI team. Mission first. American flag. Yeah. So he mentioned Russiagate there, and that's where this all began. There was a Steele dossier, which was relied upon in an attempt by various individuals to go after now President Donald Trump at the beginning of his first administration, his first term in office. Now, after the entire Russia hoax, whatever you want to call it, it ultimately ended in a report from John Durham finding that the FBI, etc., handled things improperly. The aforementioned Steele dossier wasn't really reliable in the first place. Well, people like James Comey maintained that it was not technically relied upon. But it turns out he was lying. So that's what this is all about. Him lying under oath before Congress. Is it going to stick? Stick around and find out. So here's the statement from Attorney General Pam Bondi and also Director Kash Patel. This is from the U.S. Department of Justice website here. Statements regarding indictment of former FBI Director James Comey. Once again, this was published just yesterday, and it read, today, a federal grand jury has charged former FBI Director James Comey with serious crimes related to the disclosure of sensitive information. The indictment alleges that Comey obstructed a congressional investigation into the disclosure of sensitive information in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1505. The indictment also alleges that Comey made a false statement in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1001. Comey stated that he did not authorize someone at the FBI to be an anonymous source. According to the indictment, that statement was false. No one is above the law, said Attorney General Pamela Bondi Today's indictment reflects this Department of Justice's commitment to holding those who abuse positions of power accountable for misleading the American people. We will follow the facts in this case. No one is above the law. That's a term you frequently hear, not just in prosecution, but in politics as a whole. They all like to say it when the shoe is on the other foot. They say, no one is above the law, as they go after their opponents. But then when their opponents go after them, they feel that they're above the law. And this swings from side to side, seemingly, if you ask me. Today, your FBI took another step in its promise of full accountability, said FBI Director Kash Patel. For far too long, previous corrupt leadership and their enablers weaponized federal law enforcement, damaging once proud institutions and severely eroding public trust. Every day, we continue to fight to earn the trust back. And under my leadership, this FBI will confront the problem head-on. Nowhere was this politicization of law enforcement more blatant than during the Russiagate hoax. A disgraceful chapter in history we continue to investigate and expose. Everyone, especially those in positions of power, will be held to account, no matter their perch. No one is above the law. They're all saying it. Down here at the bottom, this is worth noting. An indictment is merely an allegation. All defendants are presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. So this is just the beginning, despite this having gone on for so long overall. Yeah, another statement worth reading is from the Eastern District of Virginia. And we will get to know this name as my show goes on. Lindsay Halligan. So, a federal grand jury indicts former FBI director for false statements and obstruction in congressional testimony. Lindsay Halligan, U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, announced today that a federal grand jury returned an indictment charging former FBI Director James Comey with making a false statement and obstruction related to his oral testimony before the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee on September 30, 2020. The charges, as alleged in this case, represent a breach of the public trust at an extraordinary level, said U.S. Attorney Halligan. The balance of power is a bedrock principle. That word is key, principle. Principle of our democracy, and it relies on accountability and a forthright presentation of facts from executive leadership to congressional oversight. Any intent to avoid, evade, prevent, or obstruct compliance is a violation of professional responsibility and, most importantly, the law. If convicted, Comey faces up to 5 years in prison. Actual sentences for federal crimes are typically less than the maximum penalties. A federal district court judge will determine any sentence after considering the U.S. sentencing guidelines and other statutory factors. A copy of this press release is located on the website of the U.S. Attorney's Office. Yada, 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 bing, bang, boom. Now that we've read that, let's just read the room. So, I typed in Lindsay Halligan's name to see what the headlines were saying about her. From MSNBC News, Trump's U.S. Attorney Allison Halligan got James Comey indicted by herself. Wait a second. Wait just a doggone second. Is it Lindsay Halligan, as seen here? Or is it Allison Halligan, as seen here? That article was published over 2 hours ago. MSNBC News. Let me see what the actual article says. Aha! How Trump's new U.S. attorney got Comey indicted by herself. So the headline has changed if you actually click on the article. And then under that top headline, you see Trump loyalist Lindsay Halligan found herself going it alone before a grand jury that formally charged the former FBI director on Thursday night. So they have fixed whatever typo they initially had there. But yes, here it said Trump's U.S. Attorney Allison Halligan got James Comey indicted by herself. Okay, that's especially amusing to me because I was going to highlight this other article from the Daily Beast, and the headline of it reads, Trump's DOJ pick humiliated after embarrassing James Comey spelling error. So what that article is about. Okay, well, let me just read it. Trump's DOJ pick humiliated after embarrassing James Comey spelling error. So I saw this earlier when I was searching her name. I thought, what went wrong in the indictment? What did she do this time? Let me just read this. Donald Trump's fresh pick as the attorney to indict former FBI Director James Comey has made an embarrassing blunder while trumpeting the news in her first week on the job. Trump-pho Comey was charged with making a false statement and obstruction relating to his oral testimony before the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee on September 30 of 2020. At the time, he was heading the investigation into claims of Russian interference in Trump's 2016 campaign. Lindsay Halligan, the former beauty queen who has been the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia since Monday, supposedly replacing someone who didn't want to go along with this, but that's speculative. I haven't really looked into that. Issued a statement on Thursday to announce Comey's indictment. Here you see her with Carolyn Leavitt, Trump's current press secretary. I call them all that. However, the quote attributed to Halligan, who has taken on the new role with no previous prosecutorial experience, contains a major spelling error. Spelling error? Wait, what? Another one? This time it's different. The balance of power is a bedrock principle of our democracy, it reads, rather than principle. So this is the Daily Beast's idea of not just a major spelling error, but a headline. A story worthy of a headline. Trump's DOJ pick humiliated after embarrassing James Comey spelling error. And then they find one typo, which has since been corrected, as you can see here. Bedrock principle. There we go. I don't know if you can actually read that off the screen, but I'm reading it for you, and it has since been updated. But I'm just finding it ironic that I had pulled up an article from the Daily Beast about a typo, only to just catch in the spur of the moment a typo from MSNBC in their initial headline over here, calling her Allison Halligan instead of Lindsay Halligan. Good times. Didn't even plan that as a talking point, but I'll take it. Moving on. Who is Lindsay Halligan, the Trump appointee overseeing the Comey case? Since she is the fresh face here and supposedly making it happen all by herself. Though not really. Lindsay Halligan has gone from a relative unknown to a figure in the national spotlight in a matter of days, says The Hill, as she serves as the top prosecutor in the case against former FBI Director James Comey. Not to be mistaken for James Comey. Right-wingers will have fun with that one. Halligan previously served as President Trump's personal lawyer and had been working as a White House official until just last week, when she was tapped as the interim U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia. Now Halligan will face intense scrutiny as she leads the case against Comey, who was indicted Thursday on 2 counts. Here's what to know about Halligan. So did Team Trump pick Halligan because of her loyalty, more so than because of her experience? That could come back to bite them but at least she's loyal, seemingly. Former Trump personal lawyer turned U.S. attorney. An insurance lawyer, Halligan was brought into Trump's orbit when she joined his legal team in 2022. The attorney was part of the legal proceedings in Florida over Trump's handling of classified documents in a case brought by then special counsel Jack Smith. Oh, that didn't work out well, did it? Halligan also worked on Trump's legal team on various other matters. Trump announced Saturday he was nominating Halligan to serve as U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia after the ouster of Eric Siebert, not to be mistaken for Seabiscuit. I don't know, Siebert just made me think of Seabiscuit for some reason. Forget I said anything. Ouster of Eric Siebert from the role. Siebert departed after he reportedly told top Justice Department officials that there was not sufficient evidence to bring charges against New York Attorney General Letitia James on mortgage fraud allegations. He also reportedly raised concerns about the potential prosecution of Comey. Lindsay is a tough, smart, and loyal, there's that word, attorney who has worked with me for a long time, including in the winning fight against the weaponization of our justice system by crooked Joe Biden and the radical left Democrats, which she witnessed firsthand when she stood up for my rights during the unconstitutional and un-American raid on my home, Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, Trump wrote on Truth Social in announcing Halligan's nomination. Since January, Halligan had worked as a senior aide in the White House under the staff secretary. She was among the officials who joined Trump when he attended the U.S. Open men's tennis final earlier this month. Her most notable assignment came when she was tasked with leading a White House review of Smithsonian Institution Museum exhibits to ensure alignment with Trump's executive orders. How much longer is this? Oh, not too much longer. I'll go ahead and read it. Halligan signed off on a letter instructing 8 of the Smithsonian's museums, including the National Museum of African American History and Culture, the National Museum of American History, the National Portrait Gallery, and the National Museum of the American Indian to replace exhibits that include divisive or ideologically driven material with unifying, historically accurate content, according to the news outlet. That was somewhat controversial. Halligan took to the airwaves to defend the administration's work amid backlash from critics who argued the White House was erasing history. Oh no! Particularly after Trump questioned why there was so much emphasis on the country's slavery. I mean, we did overcome it. The fact our country was involved in slavery is awful. No one thinks otherwise, Halligan said in an August interview with Fox News. But what I saw when I was going through the museum personally was an overemphasis on slavery, and I think there should be more of an overemphasis on how far we've come since slavery. Touché. She lacks prosecutorial experience. While Halligan is a Trump loyalist, she lacks experience prosecuting federal cases, something that has been highlighted in the wake of the Comey indictment. And of course, if this all falls apart, maybe she will take the brunt of the blame, right? If James Comey doesn't actually do any time and Republicans are mad, will she get thrown under the bus? So many questions. The New York Times reported Halligan personally presented the case against Comey to the grand jury, an unusual move for someone in her role. Halligan has sought a third charge against Comey, but the grand jury only indicted the former FBI director on 2 counts. Not sure what that other charge is. Or shall I say was. It was Halligan who signed the indictment in the case, not other career prosecutors in the attorney's office, the U.S. Attorney's Office, further underscoring how there had been skepticism about bringing charges against Comey. Comey is set to be arraigned October 9th in federal court in Alexandria, Virginia. His case will be overseen by U.S. District Judge Michael Nachmanoff, an appointee of former President Biden. So some on the right are already taking issue with this and suggesting that this indeed is going to fall apart. Yeah, because this district judge was an appointee of President Biden. But that's the end of that article. So moving on to this, I'll just go ahead and play this through, share a few thoughts along the way. A clip from Laura Ingram's show earlier. Brett Tolman saying James Comey is a liar.
Brett, we're just getting all these details now, and frankly, they're scant. We expect this indictment to be released at any moment. Your thoughts on where this case might go? And again, we know the backstory here, that the Democrats are going to claim, oh, well, it's just an indictment. They were never saying that when they indicted Trump, right? But now they're out saying, oh, it's just an indictment. It doesn't mean anything. Well, of course, you're presumed innocent. But nevertheless, former FBI director, looks like he was expecting this indictment.
Yeah, so maybe not much of a surprise to him, even if he's not excited. This has been the talk of the town for a while now. Will he or will he not be indicted? Will he or will he not be prosecuted in any way, shape, or form by the Trump administration? They have been talking about each other for some time. Trump talks about Comey, Comey talks about Trump, to the point where I myself began to think that it was all just going to continue being talk. But some walking did occur, at least walking in the form of indictment.
Some of his comments recently. Your reaction tonight?
Well, as the Democrats told us, right? The grand jury decided this, and we should honor the grand jury's role, and we should give confidence to it. And here it is on the other side, and you're going to hear them cry, and they're going to lament that it's lawfare. But here's the progression of Jim Comey. I knew Jim Comey. I was an assistant U.S. attorney when he was the deputy director of deputy director of the Department of Justice. And he wielded much power. He was a very different lawyer, a very different member of the Department of Justice back then. And I saw a progression that came as a result of his attention, his media, attention, his power and influence that he started to yield. We saw him lying, Laura, about whether there were abuses of the FISA Patriot Act, Rule 702. He was willing to lie about that. He's been telling lies, and he's been doing it continually because he has not been held accountable. He didn't have a DOJ that was willing to prosecute him or even legitimately investigate him for what he was doing. We know the history, but I will tell you this. These statutes are there for a reason, to especially give confidence that someone that's hauled in front of Congress is not lying while under oath, and someone is not interfering with the accountability and the transparency that we expect from our government. So I commend them for presenting this. The grand jury did its job, and we'll see what all the details are in the indictment.
So my most pessimistic interpretation of James Comey would be that he comes across to me as a self-righteous, anti-Trump airhead. But at the same time, do I like the pressure campaign Donald Trump has been putting on his Department of Justice to go after this guy? Not necessarily. Just keeping it 100 here. Two things can be true at once, or false at once, I suppose. I don't know if the full indictment has been made public yet. I haven't made it that far. If it has, I would like to read it at some point. I don't know if I'll read it out on this show. Don't know how long it will be. Looks like my show itself is going to be longer than I've been hoping. So let me speed through the rest of this here. I have a thread put together with some of the relevant artifacts related to the case, starting with Attorney General Pam Bondi's post. "No one is above the law," she said. "Today's indictment reflects this Department of Justice's commitment to holding those who abuse positions of power accountable for misleading the American people. We will follow the facts in this case." AG Pam Bondi's DOJ indicts former FBI Director James Comey after public pressure from President Donald Trump, I said. And I should have been more specific and mentioned the grand jury there. Hopefully she handles this more professionally than the Epstein files. Am I right? I think I am. That's why I said it. So here's an old post from 2 years ago when James Comey himself was saying, "A good day for the rule of law." I'm not sure exactly what he was talking about at the time. Oh, look, he turned off his replies. No one could comment. No one could roast him. But he said, "A good day for the rule of law." I'm guessing it had something to do with one of the attempts to prosecute Donald Trump. I could be wrong about that. That's speculative, but I know he was eating all of that up at the time. Let's, again, keep it 100 here. Republicans like to go after Democrats. Democrats like to go after Republicans. You might say James Comey is a nonpartisan figure. That's a laugh. That's a laugh and a half right there. But yes, Republicans saying rule of law. Democrats saying rule of law. No one is above the law. No one is above the law. And then they go after each other. Sometimes it turns into a big old nothing burger, like all of the attempts to incriminate Donald Trump. Or at least for the most part, it turned into a nothing burger, seeing as how he became the president again. I say James Comey is a phony, and yes, he does seem very dishonest to me. But again, a lot of people are dishonest, and selectively prosecuting them based upon politicization is not exactly the best thing for the nation. I'm all for doing things fairly and squarely and going after the bad guys, right or left, but it just seems like no matter which administration is in the White House, things are selectively done. Left, over here, James Comey telling Congress in September of 2020 that the Steele dossier wasn't used in the 2016 intelligence community assessment on the Russian hoax. On the right, Tulsi Gabbard's release from July showing the Steele dossier was directly cited and that Obama intel officials ruled senior intel officials who told them it was garbage. Intel officials overruled senior intel officials who told them it was garbage. Shout out to Greg Price for posting this. So I'm going to put this up on the screen. I'm obviously not going to read it all, but just as one example here, the same officer said that DCIA refused to remove it, and when confronted with the dossier's many flaws, responded, "Yes, but doesn't it ring true?" And this just goes on and on and on here. So it was relied upon in going after Trump, even though people like Comey pretended that it wasn't, and allegedly lied in front of Congress, or shall I say, in front of the Senate.
Not been verified?
I don't know whether it was Brennan. I remember being told that the group's view was it was significant enough and consistent enough with other intelligence that it ought to be included, but it wasn't sufficiently corroborated to be in the body of the intelligence community assessment. So they put a brief summary of it in an annex.
So basically he's saying, well, it was reliable, we just weren't relying on it. Okay, remember how I said two things can be false at once? Perfect example. Backtracking here. On down the thread we go. James Comey is also very forgetful. It's amusing how such smart people become so dumb whenever it's convenient. Here's a supercut from Tom Elliott. Comey couldn't recall this and he couldn't recall that. That's a common response in congressional testimony.
Did Mr. Page deny knowing people that you accused him of having contact with?
I don't remember. That's about all I recall. I don't remember that. I don't remember learning anything additional about Steele's sources. Not that I recall, no. I don't remember Bruce or ever briefing me. I don't recall that.
So do you recall?
I do not.
Do you recall?
I do not. I don't remember any discussion. I don't remember using that word, but I don't remember using that word. I don't remember ever being informed. I don't recall being informed of that.
Did you ask any questions or do any due diligence on this at all?
I don't remember anything about the facts that have been revealed recently about the subsource. I don't remember the exact words, but something similar.
I can't recall is the proud man's version of pleading the fifth. I want to testify, but I don't want to testify about much of anything.
That doesn't
ring bells with me.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty stunning thing. It didn't ring a bell.
Which I'm sure you remember.
I don't remember the exact words. I don't remember whether I knew the Democratic Party. I don't know for sure. I don't know. I don't think I knew before. I remember reading the footnote. I don't know whether I asked. I don't know what that refers to. As I said earlier, that does not ring any bells with me when I read that. I don't remember it. I don't remember receiving anything that's described in that letter.
You know, Mr. Comey, I call that selective memory.
Now, someone like me, who doesn't have much experience remembering all the details in settings such as those, yeah, it would be common for me to misremember a lot of things, or maybe not remember them at all. But someone like him, who was the director of the FBI, who knows, who is trained to know what to remember, it's just hard to believe that someone like him could be so unprepared to answer questions which he knows he's going to be asked. But like I said, that's how it goes in congressional testimony. Now, to spread the pessimism around, President Trump celebrates the prosecution of James Comey for allegedly lying under oath. Here's what he said on his Truth Social account. 2 different posts. I'll read the short one first. James Comey is a dirty cop. Make America great again, said Trump. 4 a.m. Oh, actually, he posted the long one first and then the short one. So he had posted this one 3 minutes before the other one, I believe. Yeah, there's a 4 a.m. there on the short one and a 3:57 a.m. on the long one. Whether you like corrupt James Comey or not, and I can't imagine too many people liking him, he lied. It is not a complex lie. It's a very simple but important one. There is no way he can explain his way out of it. He is a dirty cop, and always has been, but he was just assigned a crooked Joe Biden-appointed judge, so he's off to a very good start. Nevertheless, words are words, and he wasn't hedging or in dispute. He was very positive. There was no doubt in his mind about what he said or meant by saying it. He left himself zero margin for error on a big and important answer to a question he just got unexpectedly caught. James Dirty Cop Comey was a destroyer of lives. He knew exactly what he was saying, and that it was a very serious and far-reaching lie for which a very big price must be paid. President DJT. That's not all Trump has had to say on Truth Social as of late, so backtracking a little further, a week ago when Trump publicly posted what appeared to be a private message meant for AG Bondi, in which he was pressuring her to prosecute Comey, etc. The post wasn't deleted, but he posted again shortly after praising Bondi and Lindsay Halligan, who ended up making this happen, as we read. Personally, I'm not a fan of the sitting president pressuring the Department of Justice to do anything, but is it justified in this case? In the case of James Comey, alleged liar? I think that so many people in so many positions of power who have testified in front of Congress, House, Senate, whatever, have made statements which were dishonest to one extent or another. But I think the prosecutorial endeavors are selective. Pam, said Donald Trump, I have reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story as last time. All talk, no action, nothing is being done. What about Comey? Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia, as in Letitia James. They're all guilty as heck, but nothing is going to be done. Then we almost put in a Democrat-supported U.S. attorney in Virginia. Ooh, with a really bad Republican past. A woke rhino who was never going to do his job. That's why 2 of the worst Dem senators pushed him so hard. He even lied to the media and said he quit. And that we had no case. That's the Seabiscuit guy, I believe. No, I fired him, and there is a great case, and many lawyers and legal pundits say so. Lindsay Halligan is a really good lawyer and likes you a lot. We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility. They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times over nothing. Justice must be served now. President DJT. So initially it was being reported that Donald Trump meant to send this as a private message but accidentally posted it publicly on his Truth Social account. I don't know the full truth behind that. Maybe he was playing his cards, bit of 3D chess or something like that, trying to get in her head, trying to put that pressure campaign to a maximum. But it worked, apparently. Not for James Comey, but let me know if you know something I don't know about that. It does read like a personal, private message. But shortly after, in fact, I believe an hour after, yes, almost exactly an hour after, he said, Pam Bondi is doing a great job as Attorney General of the United States. She is very careful, very smart, loves our country, but needs a tough prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia. My recommendation, Lindsay Halligan, to get things moving. What we don't need is a Democrat-endorsed Republican, in scare quotes. I will be nominating Lindsay Halligan to be the United States Attorney in this very important part of our great country. She will be fair, smart, and will provide desperately needed justice for all. Namely James Comey, I suppose. We'll see if they go after Adam Shifty Schiff and Letitia James next. I simply strive to keep that same energy either way so as not to end up like Harry Sisson. And this may seem random, but it's something I added to my thread here. But I also add, both Republicans and Democrats seem to only support such top-down pressure campaigns when their party/president is the one doing the pressuring. But as we read in the screenshots above, Trump was either directly or indirectly pressuring his attorney general. And I think that if Joe Biden was caught doing something like that, pressuring Merrick Garland, which Republicans actually accused him of doing on many occasions, if it was so direct, like a message saying, Merrick, this is what needs to be done. Go after these people. Republicans they'd be demanding impeachment, probably. So I'm actually surprised Democrats haven't been demanding impeachment over this. At least more than they already are demanding it, because they're always demanding it. Though that didn't work out the last 2 times they attempted it. So there's that. But yes, speaking of Harry Sisson, here he had said 16 hours ago or so, Trump just indicted former FBI Director James Comey. People need to wake the bleep up. This is what targeting your political opponents looks like. Previous prosecutors refused to bring this case because they didn't have the evidence. Now, out of nowhere, Trump does this. Insane. Yeah, again, thank Lindsay Halligan, not Allison Halligan, but Lindsay Halligan for that. But then, this guy by the name of Bad Hombre asked, "This you, boy?" And shared an older screenshot from the same Harry Sisson when he was saying, Peter Navarro has just been indicted by a federal grand jury for contempt of Congress. This is huge. Fire and popcorn. So, like I said, if you're a Democrat, when Republicans get indicted, it's huge. It's worth fire emojis and popcorn emojis. It's a celebration. But then when a Democrat, and yes, that's exactly who James Comey is, and he has, in fact, worn it on his T-shirt in the past as an endorsement, if you know what I'm talking about, then it's, the sky is falling. Democracy has ended. This is insane. So, don't take notes from Harry Sisson. For hypocrisy, look no further than James Comey in 2024, clearly salivating over the idea of Donald Trump being imprisoned. And someone might say, he was just responding to a question by Jen Psaki, former propaganda secretary in the Biden administration, Jen Circleback Psaki. But yeah, James Comey, all these other politicians, and so many prosecutors, so on and so forth, were indeed salivating over the potential of Donald Trump going to jail, which he didn't.
So a lot of people have suggested that there are a range of factors that would make it difficult to put a former, the system has not been tested in this way. Do you agree with that it would be difficult or nearly impossible for the law enforcement institutions to put him in actual jail?
No, they would just put him in a double wide somewhere out near the fence, out in the grass. And he would eat there, he'd shower there, he'd exercise there, he'd be away, as Danya Perry said, from general population. But it's obviously doable.
Obviously doable. He clearly wanted Donald Trump in jail. And now Donald Trump clearly wants him in jail. First time Donald Trump was in office, there was a lot of talk. More talk than walk, more bark than bite. The whole viral moment from the debate against Hillary Clinton, when he suggested that if he was in control of law and order, she would be behind bars. But then he didn't really drain the swamp to the extent he had claimed he would, and he didn't really go after anyone in terms of prosecuting them once he was in the White House from 2016 to 2020. So this time around, a lot of people on the right wanted things to be different because of Russia, and because of all of the quote-unquote witch hunts against Donald Trump over the years. Is this retaliation from the top down? Even if it is it justified? Since we're giving James Comey a hard time, it's worth reflecting on how hard it is to believe that a former FBI director could have been so clueless about the potential interpretations of 8647, so soon after 2 assassination attempts on Trump. So, yeah, just to recap on this, courtesy of Autism Capital here on X, just to recap, the disgraced former director of the FBI, James Comey, posts a photo on Instagram of 8647, made out of shells, which he claims he just happened to randomly stumble upon and he found cool, as he said. Then when he receives the appropriate backlash for his ridiculous post, he deletes it and posts a message saying that he didn't realize 8647 could be considered violent. 86 is a common slang for getting rid of something, and 47 being Trump, the 47th president. The former director of the FBI tried to say he didn't know what 86 as slang means. He also tried to imply he didn't just spend a portion of his day literally collecting shells on the beach to make this absurd post. And he also happens to conveniently have a book he's currently promoting. This is how little they think of you. So yeah, he had posted this. Cool shell formation on my beach walk. He pretended he did not put those shells that way, that he just happened upon them. He even admitted in his interviews that he assumed it was political in nature, but I guess he only thought the second half of it was political in nature. He didn't think the first 2 numbers were political in nature. I think that he was lying up a storm. And even now, if he walks, if he doesn't do time but instead walks, he's probably going to go for another walk on a beach somewhere and collect some more shells. Or maybe just happen upon a formation of shells. But yeah, this was after 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump, and then Comey posts this, gets backlash, deletes the post, talks about how I posted earlier a picture of some shells I saw today on a beach walk, which I assumed were a political message. Oh, what? I didn't realize some folk would associate those numbers with violence. It never occurred to me, but I oppose violence of any kind, so I took the post down. And then he promptly went on a media tour promoting his book and playing the victim as all the liberal media pundits patted him on the back. Yeah. But that's old news now. I just wanted to throw that in there. Comey promptly went on a woe is me media tour and was treated like the victim. Oh, I had a typo there. 2 typos in one post. How do I not catch these at the time? See, anyone can type out a typo. Well, I was going to share this post of Roger Stone pointing out how James Comey is being treated with kid gloves by the government, even in indictment, but it turns out that Stone has me blocked. What? I haven't the slightest idea why, but I'm not a fan of the guy anyway. So yeah, Roger Stone had said, wait, why isn't Comey being gagged by the federal judge in his case like I was? In fact, why is he being allowed to turn himself in? Why isn't he subjected to a 6 a.m. raid on his home by 29 heavily armed FBI agents? That's what had happened to Roger Stone, of course. So I tried to repost that, and I found out that Roger Stone has blocked me. Would you look at that? So I can see his post, I just can't share it. It'd be like that sometimes. I honestly have no idea why he would want to block me. If you'd like to hear Comey complain about his indictment, here you go. Midas Touch had posted this 55-second long video. I'll go ahead and play it.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid, and I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged, you are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends upon it, which it does. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial.
I'm innocent. All right. I don't know whether he should go to jail or not. I'm not the kind of person who's like, yeah, let's send him to jail. Woohoo! Let's ruin their life. Woohoo! But the cognitive dissonance, the Trump derangement syndrome, or if you're on the right, the Trump attachment syndrome, has gotten to too many people. Too many people are giving up space in their head rent-free to their political rivals, their political opponents. It's just never-ending division and divisiveness. But no, I don't exactly think that James Comey is the most innocent person out there.
And keep the faith.
Keep the faith. Okay, that's a good message for anyone. But I don't have a lot of faith in you, James Comey. I think that if it were Roger Stone or Donald Trump or anyone on the right, pretty much, who was being politically prosecuted, he'd be just fine with it. But when the shoe is on the other foot, democracy is being destroyed before our very eyes. I'm the victim. I will always stand for the truth, even if it means lying in order to stand for the truth. Pardon the language in the repost, but it is rich for the Wall Street Journal to claim that such politically driven prosecutions are unprecedented. Though, to be fair, Trump hasn't exactly hidden his hand in it as previous administrations might have done. Another typo on my part. I'm reading past them, but I noticed them, and I don't like them. So, yes, there was this headline from the Wall Street Journal, which read, Justice Department officials are racing to obtain criminal charges this week against former FBI Director James Comey, escalating President Trump's unprecedented efforts to prosecute his political foes. And then Mike Benz says, here's 19 precedents right here, mother bleepa. And Trump's mugshot, his notorious mugshot. Worth noting that this was out of the Georgia indictment. And how did that work out for Fani Willis and her man friend Wade? Not so well, did it? Because it turned out that they were quite corrupt themselves. So when you have corrupt prosecutors attempting to prosecute potentially corrupt politicians, it's just one big circle of corruption. the pot calling the kettle black. Whatever other metaphor you think of for it, it's going to fit. As a side note, the aforementioned Lindsay Halligan received a resignation letter from James Comey's son-in-law, who I'd forgotten was in government. But Nick Swarter had said, breaking, James Comey's son-in-law, who prosecuted J6ers, has resigned his position as assistant U.S. attorney after the former FBI director's indictment. The trash is taking itself out, says Nick Swarter. Hat tip ALX for the screenshot here. Dear Miss Halligan, to uphold my oath to the Constitution and country, I hereby resign as an assistant U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia and the Department of Justice, effective immediately. So I don't know if that's him siding with his family member or if that's him feeling that it's his duty to step aside because of conflicts of interest. Whatever the case, just thought that was worth mentioning. And then one last random post from Adam Schiff, who could be next on the metaphorical chopping block. Will he be next on the indictment list, or will his preemptive pardon protect him? Remember, he's one of the ones Joe Biden preemptively pardoned on his way out of office. So now he's big mad, and he's saying Donald Trump forced out a respected U.S. attorney because they wouldn't go along with Trump's demands for political prosecutions, which Adam Schiff himself was in favor of when it was directed towards Donald Trump and Donald Trump's colleagues. When there were witch hunts, if you will, against Donald Trump, Adam Schiff was at the front of the line claiming that there was verifiable proof that he was Putin's puppet and that there was clear-cut evidence of Russian collusion and all that. So this guy's one to talk, right? Less than a week later, his inexperienced handpicked successor brings charges against a member of Trump's enemies list. In my almost 6 years as an assistant U.S. attorney, I've never witnessed such a blatant abuse of the department. Never? Really? The DOJ is now little more than an arm of the president's retribution campaign. Yeah, Donald Trump is being louder and prouder about it, but there's nothing new about this. And I don't know that the fact that Donald Trump is pressuring his Department of Justice, I don't know if the fact that he's doing so somewhat improperly alleviates or negates the responsibilities of all these other corrupt politicians. And please do not tell me that none of these politicians are corrupt. Now, you may be on the right and think that all Democrats are corrupt. You may be on the left and think that all Republicans are corrupt. I'm just saying, whichever side of the coin you're talking about, there is going to be some corruption. And they all seem to think it's everyone except for themselves. I wonder why that is. Maybe because they're corrupt. So Shifty Schiff is going to keep shifting his gears, condemning Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is going to keep condemning the likes of Adam Schiff. We'll see who gets indicted next, if anyone. Maybe this is just a one and done in order to save face in the face of right-wingers who have called for this sort of prosecution for months and months and months. That's why Donald Trump said in his private message / public post to Pam Bondi that, well, let me read it for you one more time. He had said, as you can see here on the screen yet again, "We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility." Is that the motivating factor behind all of this? We just got to do something. We've got to do something. We've got to go after them. Or at least one of them. James Comey. Because nobody likes that guy. And because he's not currently in politics. But I've said enough on this. I'm sure my opinions are leaking through. But this is my show. So that's just what I do. Trying to keep it as reasonable as possible, though. And again, let me know what you think down in the comments below. I got to go, but keep in touch, keep in tune. New content is coming soon. Peace.